All right, music fans, welcome back. It is Dave, the Real Music Observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there and yours truly right here. Keyboard player Jonathan Cain, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, has a book out. I've told you about the book. It's called Don't Stop Believin', The Man, the Myth, the Legend, the Band, the Cosmos. Available now at all of your fine retailers, including online. Don't forget Amazon.com has the version that you can listen to on Audible.com. Jonathan reads the book, so it's fairly interesting because he adds a lot of emotion and grit to the storyline. The question I have, though, is this particular book a really great Father's Day gift? And is this book an inspirational story? Yes and no is the answer to that, and I am going to explore the no more than the yes. There are some unresolved relationship issues within this book when John was married to a different person, and then he meets his current wife on an airplane flight, I believe out of San Antonio, from what I remember. And then later on, mysteriously, his marriage falls apart, and then he marries his current wife, Paula White Cain, formerly just known as Paula White. She is the pastor of New Destiny Christian Center in Apopka, Florida. And she is also a chief spiritual advisor to the President of the United States. So she has got some clout. And if you've seen her in a dress, you say to yourself, wow, okay? Just throwing it out there. Very attractive blonde lady, and very distracting, by the way, if you're trying to watch her do a sermon. You know, I've never been ever distracted by a preacher preaching a sermon, which makes it very interesting to be a fan of Miss Paula. I would advise her maybe to wear some looser fitting clothing as a starting point, so that way I might actually pay attention to what she's saying. So you could see that maybe Jonathan was physically attracted to Miss Paula. We hear in the book about how she spoke to his heart in a way that no one else was able to do. I think she's speaking to a lot of men in ways that maybe other men have never, heard before without even speaking any words. All right, so with that said, the content of the book, let's talk about the content of the book. I've listened to the entire book. There is some really good rock and roll stuff in here. Stuff, though, for the most part, other than maybe little details that most fans of Journey already knew about. We heard John's perspective on the Steve Perry exit from the band the first time, and the second time, we heard John compare Steve to a horse, racehorse specifically, which I thought was really weird. Don't smack that horse too many times because he might not want to run anymore. And we heard a little regret on the level of touring the band did and so forth. We never really heard the exact conversations that took place between Steve and John when John made the phone call back to Steve, telling Steve that he would no longer be in the group and they were going to pursue other singers. Steve, keep in mind, Steve Perry was the guy who initiated the second version, or Journey Part 3, however you want to look at it. You could look at Journey Part 1 prior to Steve, Part 2 with Steve, and Part 3 when Steve comes back. And he was the guy that instigated all of that. So you got to remember this about the whole Steve Perry thing. I don't think Steve did this on purpose. A lot of people have theorized that there was another album that they had to come out with. It was a contractual agreement and so forth. I'm not buying that. Steve had a solo album. Journey was going to pursue Kevin Chalfant. That's what they were about to do right before Steve called, and then Steve got back, trial by fire happened, the hip goes out, they say bye to Steve, and then Steve Augeri shows up. All of that is pretty much well known. I think there's so much revisionism, though, that pops up here and there that you kind of wonder to yourself, was this book done to really exploit Perry, to exploit this poor song, which is now Don't Stop Believin', the man, the myth, the legend, the band, the cosmos. I mean, people love the song. It's the most downloaded song in music history. And I'm not sure why, at this point, people still need to know about the song. It's kind of like, it's definitely becoming overkill for even the garden variety Journey fans that fell off the turnip truck. The hardcore fans that talk to me are like, you know what, I don't have to hear that song anymore. You could put it away for 5 years, 10 years, bring it back out, you know, give it a rest. You know, we used to do this in radio all the time. We used to, what they call, weed the garden. We'd pluck out all those old songs that are getting too much airplay, put them aside for a while, put some new songs in the garden, let them flourish for a while. DSB, I think, needs a break. The book, I think, although an interesting read, may not be an inspirational story to make fathers, say, a better person, okay? It may not be the book that would substitute for the subscription to, say, Field and Stream, or, you know, whatever Ultimate Classic Rock does. I don't think they print their stuff. I mean, you can go online and get it, and that's pretty much the way people absorb things nowadays. But to get a hard copy of this book to own, I would say probably just do what I did. Jump on Amazon and grab an Audible copy and listen away. Is the book interesting? Mildly so. Is the book inspirational? You be the judge. A lot of people think it is. I think there's too much other stuff going on, and there's too much unresolved stuff having to do with former wives and the current wife and how that all went down. I think some transparency is needed, and some honesty, because I think that could help men. It could help men with lust. It could help men with making rash choices, okay? I mean, it could help me. I mean, I'm not perfect. But just say it. Don't just say this was all ordained, because this is a strange path to be ordained by God or anyone for that matter, okay? To me, it just seems like a random life, a pinball life that eventually winds up here, and that we're all kind of told that this was all, you know, divine providence. Well, tough for me to buy that one, and tough for me to actually buy a hard copy of the book. But I did purchase an Audible copy, so yes, I did spend some hard-earned revenue from my waning Patreon account to go out and grab this book. Should you? No, maybe, maybe not. All right, that didn't really tell you a whole lot, but I felt good about it. I'll be back to talk more about this and other issues, so stay tuned. See you then.